I was looking through old cookbooks and came across a very unusual and interesting recipe for a grated cake. And I decided to make it, and it turned out to be a caramel and creamy boom of flavors. The recipe is usual in the video. I'm Violet, let's cook with me. First, I'll prepare the dough. Alright, and I'll crack one medium egg into a deep bowl. I found some leftover sour cream in the fridge and I will use 1 tablespoon of it. Next, sift 400 grams of flour into the egg and sour cream. Be sure to check the texture of the dough. If it's still sticky after the final kneading, you need to sift an additional 50 grams and knead again. It all depends on the condition of your flour. Here I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder, which I mix a little with the flour. Melt 250 grams of water slightly. It shouldn't be too runny, but I have a consistency similar to puree as you can see in the video. Add it to the rest of the ingredients and start kneading with a spatula. Mix well with the spatula until you see that the dough is stuck together. Then switch on good old manual mode and knead the dough intensely until it becomes a whole ball. Look how beautiful and soft the dough is, like a Play-Doh. It's slightly oily on top, but that's what I need. Cover it in a food wrap and put it in the freezer for 15 minutes to stabilize and freeze a little. The stabilization was successful. The dough is not like a ball of ice but is well chilled. With a spatula, I divided it into 4 equal parts. There is no need to weigh it in grams, just divide it by eye. Line the baking sheet with parchment paper, take a grater and knead a coarse side of it and start grating the dough onto the baking sheet. Try to grate evenly over the entire surface so that there are no overly thick layers of dough. Bake in a preheated to 180 degrees oven for 15 minutes. The dough should turn a nice golden brown. You can already see how crumbly it is, just what you need. I'll repeat once again so that you fully grasp how to do it. Grate the dough onto the baking sheet in a medium layer. Imagine that you're grating cheese on top of pizza. That's how you grate the dough onto the baking sheet. The process is the same. And again, bake it. I did this 4 times. As you can understand, the crumbs need to cool down well. Some of the crumbs are already fine, while the others are still quite large. You need to crush the crumbs well. I'll do it with my hands and then you will evenly spread it in the cake. And all that's left is the caramel filling. What do you need for this? Pour 500 grams of sugar into a thick bottom saucepan and put it on a medium heat. Stir constantly so that the sugar doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. Sugar begins to melt a little bit and at the same time put 360 grams of cream on a medium heat. It should be hot but not boiling. There are still lumps of sugar, so continue melting. During this time the cream has warmed up, I take it off the heat. As you can see, sugar is completely melted and gained this rich amber color. Now the main thing remains. Gradually pour the hot cream into the melted sugar and stir so hard so that they will well combine. Be careful not to burn yourself. The caramel is almost ready and the last ingredient is 120 grams of butter. The butter should be at room temperature. I cut it into small pieces for better dissolving. Stir the finished caramel well until the butter will completely dissolve and the mess will be so smooth. And now finally the cake assembly. I pour hot caramel over my delicate crumbs. There is no need to wait for the caramel to cool down as it can start to thicken and we don't want that. Mix the crumbs and caramel very carefully with a spatula. I want everything to be as even as possible without missing any of the components. I use a round bowl with a diameter of 23 centimeters as a mold, grease it a little with oil and then cover it with a food wrap so that it sticks better to the surface of the bowl. And then put the cake mass into the homemade mold. If you have a silicone mold, that will work too. Use a spatula to smooth the surface of the cake so that everything is even and there are no humps or holes anywhere. Cover the top with food wrap and put it in the fridge until it will completely harden. Now my sweet hill has stabilized and finally cooled down. I take it out of the mold and I can taste it. This cake is unusual as it is sweet and super caramel. By the way, this caramel can also be used in other desserts and cakes. This is a universal recipe. For example, I poured this caramel on the surface of the cake instead of chocolate and it was just incredible. That's all for today. More recipes every Friday. See you next time. Big hug, yours Violet.